Wait a little bit. There's something that I wanted to discuss with you. Sylvia sighed before she stated. There was no way that she was going to allow Jack to walk away right now. Although it was a little sickening to be around this guy, but she had no choice because she had to depend on him for some other things. For that reason, she had to be a little patient with him. But if she was given any other choice, then she would definitely choose it. But right now, there was no any other choice considering that Jack's mother, Anne, was no longer there. What business? I don't think that there is something that we are supposed to be discussing because we have not interacted that much, right? Jack asked, a little confused. It was true that until now, they had only engaged in a conversation about 3 or 4 times, so Jack did not really think that there was something that they had to discuss. There was no cooperation between the two of them or anything of the case. Sylvia pushed down the dissatisfaction that was about to jump out of her heart. Then, after taking a deep breath, she said, I wanted to discuss a cooperation between the two of us. Why don't you find a place to discuss this? Cooperation? About what? I don't really think that we have the same interests, right? Jack asked, a little confused. He himself had already made an enemy out of the people from the big strongholds. So, that implied that, whoever was involved with him, would have to be prepared to deal with the people from the big strongholds. Additionally, Sylvia had an organization of her own here. He on the other hand wanted to create an organization of his own as well. So, although he was not planning on gaining control of a small stronghold like this one, but still, since he was going to start a business organization, then, it was definitely going to affect the businesses that the Panthers organization ran within this territory. How are you going to know just like this? Just come over so that we can discuss this thing, Sylvia stated impatiently. Jack thought about it, and saw that there was no harm in seeing whatever proposition Sylvia had. If there was something that was going to help him in establishing his organization as fast as possible, then, he was not going to refuse taking it. So, the group immediately left, heading towards a certain part of the building. The one that was left behind was Patricia, who was still trying to contemplate about what was going on. Done.me She really had no expected that this guy, Derek, who was acting arrogantly not long ago, was going to get a beating out of nowhere. And, he was forced to behave obediently, or he would get beaten again. And, the person that had done that was the very same person that they were targeting previously after realizing that he was somehow related to Nathan. But now, she could finally understand the reason why they had lost several guardians after they were sent over. Facing a superhuman, and a ruthless one at that, it was normal that they were going to get killed. But, Patricia did not know how to feel about it at this moment. After all, if she really possessed the information about Jack's current abilities, then, they would have definitely not gone to him, trying to use force. And if that had not happened, then, Antonio would not have been locked away right now. For that reason, she felt a little resentful towards Jack, for not revealing his information about being a superhuman. But still, she felt gratitude towards him considering that he had dealt with the person that was just bothering her. Although it was true that he did not even pay much attention to her, and he had done this because this bastard, Derek, had actually targeted his fiancée, but nonetheless, he was the one that had saved her. Not knowing what to do, Patricia was getting frustrated, and, just looking at Derek who was lying unconscious on the ground, she took several steps towards him. She looked at the unconscious Derek with a cold gaze. Then, using the ability that she possessed, she noticed that this guy was not yet dead. Just thinking about the trouble that this guy was about to cause her, Patricia kicked him. She did not stop at a single kick, but she went ahead and kicked him continuously, even stomping onto him. Derek, who was so tightly holding onto his life, could not hold on anymore. Just the attack from Jack was able to make him unconscious, and he was going to fall into a coma for a very long time unless he was treated with the highest level of technology, but now, he was even being kicked in that condition. Without even being conscious about who had killed him, Derek passed away. If he knew that the person that had killed him was the one that he had initially targeted, then, he really would have felt regretful that he did not take action against her earlier. Inside Jimbo's stronghold, where Derek's family was located. Bang! Who is it that dares to kill my son? A furious roar that accompanied the loud smashing sound echoed inside a building. This was a tall skyscraper that consisted of about 50 floors. It was the biggest building both in terms of height and the area that it covered in the entire surrounding 10 kilometers radius. This was where Derek's family was based. And inside this building, there was an exquisite office. In the office, a man with part of his hair already turning gray, though his face looked young, was raging with fury. Several things within this office had already been completely smashed. It was obvious that after this, another set of equipment had to be purchased, as the ones that were present inside here could no longer be repaired. At the furthest end of the office, there was a man that was shivering all over. He looked at the man in front of him with fear, and if possible, he really wanted to escape from here. But that was something that he was not capable of doing, unless he was allowed to do so. Have you investigated about who was the one that was responsible for killing the two of them? After a long while, the man finally took a deep breath before he looked at the guy who was shivering at the entrance and questioned sternly. Sir, it is impossible for us to investigate considering that the young master did not take with him the display equipment. The man responded hurriedly. Are you kidding me? Who allowed him to get out of here without the display equipment? It might be true that we are inside the stronghold domain, but other than those extraterrestrials, we still have enemies within the stronghold domain. The fury that was calming down a little suddenly erupted once again. Just like the one that was present during the time that Eric was killed, there was always a display device that was used to record whatever happened during the time that a person was dying. Of course, the one that was possessed by the big strongholds was capable of recording everything as long as danger was detected on the person that held the device. That was something that was used in trying to make sure that people knew who their enemy was. But, of course, just like how it was created, that was also a device that was created to counter this other device. The man did not respond to the question. He had only come over to pass the information, and he was not the one that was responsible on keeping an eye on Derek. Vincent did not take his display device as well? The man questioned after taking yet another deep breath. Sir, Mr. Vincent was not allowed to take a display device considering that the one that he previously possessed was still undergoing some upgrade. And the trip that the young master made was so abrupt that even Mr. Vincent did not get a chance of coming to take the display device. The man responded. He was the one that was in charge of monitoring several things within the family. Usually, this was a good job. But now, he was really hesitating if he should continue holding this position or not. Even though he was just in charge of monitoring the situation, he was the one that was facing the anger of the leader of the family after he brought over the bad news. Useless. Why is everybody useless like this? How long is it supposed to take to upgrade a display device? Moreover, don't tell me that we don't have any other upgraded display devices that could be given to him? Derek's father roared in anger. The man did not know what to say now. After all, instead of just upgrading one, they could just take another one that was at a higher level and give it to Vincent. Still, they did not do that under the insistence of Vincent, as he claimed that that device was something that he had been with for a very long time and it was so sentimental to him. But there was no way that he was going to say something like this in front of this man. After all, this guy had suddenly lost his son, his one and only son who was supposed to take over the position of the family head after him. I want you to do the investigation. Investigate everything. Investigate where my son was last. I have to find that bastard that dared to kill my son. Derek's father immediately ordered after realizing that there was nothing that was going to change after speaking for a very long time. Sylvia took Jack and the group to a place where she resided, other than her own home. This was the place that she always stayed during the time that she was within the building where the Panda's organization operations took place, when she needed some rest. The room was quite simple, with only a few furniture present inside. The furnishing was quite exquisite, although they looked simple, but the material that was used in its craftsmanship was high quality. Jack and the group went ahead and sat on one of the sofas that was present inside the room. Sylvia on the other hand went and sat opposite them. Okay, what is it? Jack questioned after the group settled. What I want is cooperation from you, Sylvia started, but she had not even finished what she was saying when suddenly, Jack stood up. He was not the only one, because even Celine stood up. If that is what you actually wanted, then, I guess that there's no need for us to continue discussing. Jack stated bluntly. After all, it was not long ago that he had just rejected someone that came over trying to bring him into a bigger organization. But, nonetheless, he refused. Now, it seemed that Sylvia here was actually trying to make him join her organization. Wasn't that just a joke? He could only join this organization as the leader of the organization, and not as a member of the organization, a mere subordinate. Seriously? You cannot even wait until I finish whatever I'm trying to say? Sylvia stood up and questioned in a displeased tone. She thought about what she had just said, and she realized that there was actually something wrong that could be misunderstood. She actually said that she wanted a cooperation from Jack, rather than stating that she wanted to cooperate with him. From the way that she was saying it, it seemed that she was taking the superior position, something that a person like Jack was definitely not going to agree to. But nevertheless, she was not going to admit it so bluntly. There's no need for us to discuss something like this. I am not willing to join any organization, Jack said as he turned around and began walking towards the entrance of the room. When Sylvia saw this, she panicked a little, but still, she maintained her composure, not revealing that she was feeling a little anxious. What I'm trying to say is that, I want the two of us to cooperate with each other. There are a lot of things that you can gain from me, and the same applies for me, Sylvia stated. I don't think that I can gain anything from you, Jack stated bluntly. Anyway, what he was saying was true. It might be true that the Panthers organization was the biggest organization present in the entire stronghold, but it was the biggest organization present in a small stronghold. When it came to the big organizations that were found in the big strongholds, then, the Panthers organization was no different from just an ant. Frowning a little, Sylvia stated, what if I tell you that I can provide you with information about the big strongholds? Right now, you have already offended 2 of them. And for that reason, you are going to have several enemies coming after you. Perhaps if I can give you information about them, that is enough benefit for you to cooperate with me, right? Jack's steps paused after hearing what Sylvia had said. What Sylvia was saying was actually true. What he needed was actually information about those big strongholds. Although it might be true that he was going to get stronger, but he had to know how to deal with them in advance. He might actually be able to get stronger faster due to the system, but that was something that was going to happen only after he got enough resources. But, who could guarantee that the people from those big strongholds were not going to send stronger people after him, before he got even stronger? What kind of information can you provide? Jack questioned without turning around. It was true that he was interested with this deal that Sylvia was saying, but he still did not believe her. She was a member of a small stronghold, so how was it possible that she was capable of accessing information from the big strongholds? That was an impossibility considering that people from the small strongholds were not allowed to enter the big strongholds, unless they were invited or had good enough reasons for doing that. I can tell you that the person that actually sent those from the Force organization is trying to be sneaky, Sylvia stated. It is not as if I don't know that. That is something that you can guess as long as you look at the power level of the people that were sent over, Jack responded. But, he was a little disappointed after hearing what Sylvia had said. He had been expecting that perhaps she might be possessing information, something that he himself was not going to be able to access for the time being. But, it turned out that this was the information that she was saying? It was not as if he himself had not realized that something like this was going to happen. After all, Sylvia was a stage 2 superhuman, and she was a member of a small stronghold. Then, there was no way that the members of the big strongholds would not possess people that were way stronger than she was. But, they had actually sent a person who was only a single stage above him. Maybe it was because they underestimated him, but still, Jack thought otherwise. His genetic structure was so strange, something that even he himself did not understand even after reading all the information that was available for him to read. His genetic structure possessed 9 colors: gold, green, blue, purple, orange, indigo, white, red, and silver. Normally, if a person possessed an ability, then that person was going to have the normal color of the genetic structure, which was blue, added together with the color that represented the ability that they possessed. But for him, not only did he not possess even a single special ability that he knew of, but he even possessed several colors that proportionally occupied his genetic structure. What I'm trying to say is that, I already know who it was that was acting right now. It is just that, this person is trying to keep it low because he doesn't want the members of the Force organization headquarters to know about what he is doing, Sylvia stated frustratedly. You know him? Jack was a little surprised. He turned around and looked at Sylvia, waiting for her to continue. When Sylvia realized that she had already piqued Jack's attention, she felt relieved. Then after that, she looked at Jack and said, if I provide you the information, then that implies that you have already agreed to cooperate with me. We will cooperate for the benefits of each other. What is it that you want in exchange for the information? Jack questioned. It was true that he was interested in the information, but if what Sylvia was going to ask was something that went above the price of the information that she was giving, then Jack would not continue with this. As for the price of the information that Sylvia was providing, he was the one who was going to set it. So, if what she asked exceeded this price, then he was going to end this conversation here. What I need from you is your assistance in order to get to your mother, Sylvia stated. Jack looked at her confusedly. Then, he said, you should know that I am already looking for my mother. It is just that I have not gotten enough foothold inside the stronghold domain. So, the moment that I do that, I'll be focusing on looking for my mother's whereabouts. Of course, Jack did not care if Sylvia lost out in the cooperation. But still, she wanted to know the real reason why Sylvia wanted to look for his mother. He already possessed a clue, but that was just a clue, and not as if it was already determined. Of course I know that. But this cooperation that I'm talking about is that you will be helping my Panthers organization, other than looking for your mother's whereabouts, Sylvia stated. I don't think I have the time to continue worrying about some people that don't concern me. Taking care of an organization for someone, that is definitely not something that I'm going to do. Jack responded with a flat tone. What do you mean? What I'm trying to imply is that you are going to assist my Panthers organization in case it is targeted by someone. But if that person is way stronger than you are, then there's no need for you to get involved, Sylvia stated. Jack frowned. He thought about what Sylvia was saying, and to say the truth, it really looked simple. But still, there was only one problem. That was the fact that the enemy that might come over to look for the Panthers organization might be weak, but still, that did not imply that the background that they possessed was weak. So, that implied that if he got himself involved in whatever conflict that the Panthers organization would be having with an enemy that even Sylvia could not handle, then he might end up creating even more unnecessary enemies. It might be true that he was not afraid of trouble, but that did not imply that he was just going to go around looking for trouble. If he could stay peacefully within the stronghold domain, then Jack would not really mind. The only way that I can help the Panthers organization in something like that is if I am the owner of the entire organization, Jack stated after thinking for a moment. What? Sylvia questioned in disbelief. She actually thought that she failed to hear what Jack had said correctly. Did he just say that he wanted to own the entire Panthers organization? But that was an impossibility. After all, not to mention the fact that Sylvia was completely unwilling to hand over the entire Panthers organization to him. But there was also a fact that even she has health did not have full control over the entire Panthers organization. Unlike the Force organization that was completely unrestricted when it came to some activities, but the Panthers organization was different. Just like any other organization or family that was present within the stronghold domain, there was a set of rules that they were supposed to follow. That was especially so during the time when there was a battle. They had to go to battle, and, since the members of the small strongholds, they want nothing different other than cannon fodder. Inconsiderate of if the members of the small strongholds were going to agree or not, but they had to send at least 50% of the total force that they possessed. So, in case all these people that had been sent over died in the battlefield, then the strength of the small strongholds would be reduced by at least 50%. This was the main reason why the small strongholds were having a difficult time in developing. Additionally, there was also a fact that the most important resources within the stronghold domain were controlled by the big families and organizations inside the stronghold domain. Currently, Sylvia knew that Jack did not want to be bound by any organization or rules. And, even if he decided to take over the Panthers organization, then, that implied that he had to follow several rules. But not even reaching that point, Sylvia was completely unwilling to give away the authority that she possessed. So, she looked at Jack and said, "Are you trying to say that I'm supposed to be your subordinate? That is a decision that you can decide to make, but what I really want is the resources that the entire Panthers organization possess." And, by saying resources, that implies that even human resources are required. Jack responded with a simple shrug of his shoulder. Sylvia glared at Jack angrily. She really did not want to give away the entire Panthers organization, but, thinking about the plan that she was having in her mind, she thought that this was the only way to convince Jack. But perhaps there was a chance that she was capable of changing Jack's mind. So, she decided to tell him the truth. "I know that you like to be unrestrained. But, if you take over the Panthers organization, then, you will have to follow the rules that have already been set in place. Additionally, there is always a force that is in charge of an entire sector. And currently, this part of the stronghold domain is actually controlled by Derek's family," Sylvia continued. Jack looked at Sylvia as if he was looking at a fool. Then, raising his brows, he asked, "Who said anything about controlling the Panthers organization? What I'm trying to say is that, I want the resources, everything. That implies that, the entire Panthers organization has to be dissolved. Are you kidding me right now? Do you know how much of what I put in order to be able to make this current organization reach the level that it is?" Sylvia questioned, disbelief clear on her face. She had been expecting that Jack was only wanting to take over the Panthers organization. But wasn't it so ridiculous for him to go ahead and tell her that the Panthers organization was supposed to be dissolved? That is my condition. If the Panthers organization wants me to protect them, then they'll have to dissolve and join my own organization that I'm going to create soon. After that, every person that was present within the Panthers organization will be under my protection, Jack stated. He had already been given a task of creating an organization by the system, something that was going to be a little difficult to start from scratch. Additionally, he was not allowed to take over an organization that was already existing. But still, the system did not prohibit him from destroying the other organizations in order to build his own. So, by gaining the foundation that the Panthers organization possessed, all that he would have to do would be to strengthen the foundation and continue expanding the organization. System, am I right about this? Jack questioned in his mind. Although he was making guesses about this, he had to confirm with the system. If the system claimed that whatever he was doing was also not allowed, then Jack did not know what he was supposed to do. Whatever the host is doing is not wrong. Inside the stronghold domain, strength is the king. For that reason, by using his own strength, the host will be able to gain the resources of another organization. Using those resources, the host can start building an organization of his own. Jack was slightly relieved after hearing this. So, with confidence in his eyes, he looked at Sylvia, waiting for her decision. But even after 2 minutes or so had gone by, Sylvia did not respond. Instead, it was as if she was thinking about the entire thing. And, realizing that it did not seem that Sylvia was going to give him an answer anytime soon, Jack decided to leave. Sylvia, who was lost in her thoughts, did not even realize that Jack and the group had already left. It was only after about 10 minutes that she finally came back to her senses. Okay then. What I'm trying to say is that Sylvia had already begun, having already made a decision in her mind. But she had no choice but to stop after realizing that she was actually talking to air. Again, seriously? You're doing this on purpose, right? You just wait, I'll make sure that you pay for this, Sylvia shouted, not caring if there was going to be a person that was going to hear her saying this. To say the truth, she was really angry at Jack and his group. After all, this was the second time that they had left, leaving her behind. The first time, they had left when she was angry. And this time, she was just contemplating about what Jack had told her, but that guy left without even informing her. Sylvia really wanted to find a place that she was going to vent her anger. But it was just that there was nothing that she could use. If she decided, she could break everything inside here, but she did not do that. After taking a few deep breaths, she managed to calm down a little. Then, deciding to set the matter about Jack aside for now, she decided to think thoroughly about the decision that she had made before. But she had just sat back on the sofa when suddenly, her communication device suddenly began ringing. She was angry that she was going to be ignored at first, and later on, interrupted when she was about to do something important. With clear dissatisfaction, she looked at the communication device, and she could not help but be a little stunned after seeing the user ID of the caller. She took a deep breath and tried to compose herself before she received the call. Yes, Aunt. How are you doing? Sylvia tried to use a calm voice as she communicated. But, of course, there was no way that she was going to be able to control her voice so well after experiencing some frustrations continuously. Is something wrong with you? A deep feminine voice questioned from the other end of the communication device. Not really, Aunt. It's just something that frustrated me a little bit, but that's all. Sylvia responded after taking in yet another deep breath. I do wonder what it is that can actually frustrate you. Do you mind sharing? The feminine voice questioned with some curiosity. Can we not talk about it for now? I'll tell you when I come over later on. Sylvia responded, clearly not willing to talk about the matter, because she was not sure that she was going to prevent herself from destroying everything that was inside the room. When is that later on? A few days? 1 year? A decade? The feminine voice asked once again, but this time, it was clear that she was a little dissatisfied by the answer that Sylvia had given. Aunt, you know about the situation that I am in. I don't think that I'm going to come back home, unless I have achieved my goals. Sylvia responded as she let out a sigh. Of course I know that. Otherwise, why do you think that I would not have revealed the information about where you currently are? The feminine voice questioned once again. Sylvia did not respond to that. She was really thankful to this aunt of hers. She was the only person in the entire family that was supporting her decision. As for that decision, that was something that she had to do, no matter what. After noticing that Sylvia was not going to reply, a sigh came through the communication device. Then, the lady on the other end stated, Whatever it is that you are trying to do there, you better complete it soon. Your niece has done something that is going to affect the family if things go badly. And, if something like that happens, then, I'm afraid that you will have to come back home. She did something. But, from the way that I know how, I don't think that she is a reckless person. What could it be that she has done that is capable of affecting the entire family negatively? Sylvia could not help but ask, disbelief clear in her voice. If you want the details, then, you better finish whatever it is that you are trying to do there, before coming back home. She did this thing on impulse, and, it is definitely going to affect the family. As for whether your sister-in-law can change things, that is something that remains to be made assumptions of, the lady responded. Sylvia remained silent for a moment. She really did not know why things were heading in the direction that she was not expecting. She had come over here in order to prove herself, but, she had not expected that things were getting worse, even before she did that. The first one was that, after obtaining the object, then, the one that was supposed to activate it for her suddenly disappeared. Then, now, she was trying to make sure that she got to know where she was. But, information came from home that there was something that was almost going wrong. Sylvia was getting even more frustrated. If she really could not handle this situation, then, she was not only going to fail to prove herself, but, she really didn't know what she was going to do if she was forced to go back to the family. Oh, right. Have you already reached the superhuman level? Because if you have not done that, then, everything is going to change the moment that your brother notices that. After all, you have wasted several years by now, the lady questioned. I have already reached the second stage of the superhuman level, but it is going to be slightly difficult for me to be able to reach the third stage with the resources that I possess. I need to find more resources so that I can be able to reach the next stage of the superhuman level, Sylvia responded. That's not bad. Considering that you really don't possess that much resources wherever you are, but that's not bad. Anyway, you better know what to do. Because if things go south, I don't guarantee that I'll be able to prevent your brother from coming over to look for you, the lady responded. Sylvia did not think that she was lying to her. After all, she knew her brother all too well. If he decided to look for her, then, there was no way that she was going to hide. So, she decided in her mind that she was going to do everything, to make sure that she completed whatever she wanted to do as fast as possible. She had to make sure that before her brother came looking for her, she would have completed everything that she needed to do. After coming to that decision, Sylvia took a deep breath and said, "Don't worry, Aunt. By the time that Wade comes for me, I should have already completed what brought me out of the family. At that time, I really wouldn't mind going back. I hope that is the case. Anyway, I have to go. I still have a lot of things to handle, so, take care of yourself," the lady said. Relief could be clearly felt from her voice, clearly relieved with the mindset that Sylvia was having. "I will. Take care of yourself as well," Sylvia responded. Then, she ended the call, and after ending the call, she did not make any move, but began contemplating on what she was supposed to do in order to ensure that she completed everything as fast as possible. Several possibilities and things that she could do ran in her mind. It was just that, there was no any good idea that was coming into her mind, something that was going to enable her to be able to do what she wanted. No matter what, every method that she was thinking about, that was something that was going to take a very long time. And, time was something that she didn't have. She really didn't know what it was that her niece had done, but, for her aunt to call and inform her about something like this, then, whatever it was that her niece had done was definitely something big. After thinking for a very long time, she really did not come to any solution that was going to enable her to save time. In reality, it was not as if there was no idea that came into her mind. But, it was just that, she was not willing to consider that, unless there was no any other choice. But no matter how she thought about it, there was no any other choice than the idea that was appearing in her mind. And, that idea was definitely seeking assistance from Jack. Currently, Jack was facing trouble. But, it was not as if she was afraid of trouble. She herself was from a big background. That implied that, in case there was anybody that wanted to make a move on her, she could decide to go back to her family. Though, that was definitely not something that she was willing to resort to, unless she did not have any other solution. So, if it was Jack that was facing trouble, then, she was not afraid of being implicated as long as she completed the goal that she had in mind. Damn it! Why is it that he is the only person that can help me? Is there really no any other way? Sylvia thought to herself frustratedly. After trying to think again, for several minutes, she did not come to any solution. In the end, she could only sigh. Whatever it is, I don't really care now. Anyway, since he is the only person that can help me, then so be it. Sylvia had finally come to a decision. She really did not care about the Panthers organization that much. She was using the Panthers organization in order to prove herself, and gain resources as well. Although it held several memories of her, she really did not care that much if this place was destroyed. So, finally, she decided that she was going to disband the entire Panthers organization, before making them join Jack's side. But of course, she was going to ask for something more from Jack. After all, the entire Panthers organization was not something small that could just be given to Jack, only for Jack to complete a small request of hers. She had to make sure that Jack paid enough price for whatever resources that he was going to gain from the Panthers organization. While Sylvia was still deciding on what she was going to do, Jack had already arrived back at the store. During the time they had spent outside, the people that were in charge of the renovation and the repairs had already completed their job. With the level of technology that was present within the stronghold domain, it was not that much of a difficult problem for them to be able to handle the small damages that had occurred in the store. After getting into the store, everybody went back to whatever they were doing before. As for Jack, he continued reading the books about craftsmanship. In the evening, just as Jack was closing the store, a prompt appeared in front of him, and, after reading the contents of the prompt, he could not help but be a little surprised but at the same time, excited. You've earned 5,974 star coins. Multiplier effect applied. You receive 500,097,400 star coins. You have received very basic level information about craftsmanship, computing, serum production, vehicle manufacturing. Multiplier effect applied. You receive intermediate level information about craftsmanship, computing, serum production, vehicle manufacturing. At the same time as the prompts appeared, several notifications came from his communication device, and, to say the truth, this was completely unexpected for Jack. The first thing, it was not unexpected that he had actually received 5 million star coins. This was something that was supposed to be coming from the force organization that was present within this stronghold. As for that extra 974 star coins, that was the total sales of the day. They had not sold that much considering the incidents that had occurred on that particular day. Nevertheless, that was not what Jack paid much attention to. Instead, it was the fact that the multiplier effect had actually been applied here. The system claimed that he could not have the multiplier effect applying on something that he got as a gift within the stronghold domain because he had not yet gained a stable foothold. But now, the multiplier effect was being applied. Could it be that the system was considering whatever he was receiving as a loot? Jack could not help but question himself. The host is right. As long as a person is considered an enemy to the host, as long as the hosts get something from them, then, that something that he would have received would be multiplied by 100 times. It was not as if this was the first time that the system was revealing information like this. But, Jack had not actually expected that this was actually going to be counted as well. If he knew, then, he would have asked the entire force organization to hand over everything to him. And of course, they were going to refuse. But even if they refused, were they capable of preventing him from taking whatever he wanted? It was not as if they had the strength of stopping him. Just as Jack was still contemplating about what he was supposed to do next in order to be able to gain even more resources, another prompt appeared in front of him, accompanied by a notification sound coming from his communication device. You received 3,598,510 star coins. Multiplier effect applied. You received 359,851,000. Jack was a little surprised, but he still went ahead and looked at his communication device to know who it was that had sent him this amount of star coins. But, after looking at it, he realized that it was actually from Matthias. Well, it seems that this guy is quite rich, Jack stated, although he did not say it out loud, but still, Celine who was sitting not far from him heard him clearly. Rich? That guy has already transferred the money to you? Celine questioned. She was quite curious about the amount of money that had been transferred into Jack's account, for him to be this surprised. Yeah. That guy actually transferred over 3 million star coins. Then, added together with the 5 million that came from the organization, it is a total of 8 million star coins. Jack responded, not mentioning anything about the amount of money that had been multiplied by the system. It seems that is true. After all, it is not that easy for people to be able to keep their money or wealth in terms of liquid cash. So, for him to be able to possess that amount, I do believe that the amount of wealth that he possesses in terms of assets will be even greater, Celine stated excitedly. Of course, she knew that the reason why they were in this small stronghold was due to the lack of resources, or maybe due to the fact that they had not yet gained a good enough foothold. But still, all of that required them to have a large amount of money. And she already knew that this was the first time that Jack was coming into the stronghold domain. So, she was not expecting that he was going to possess so many star coins. "Well, we are going to see that very soon," Jack stated. He was expecting that whatever was supposed to be brought over physically was supposed to come before they closed the store. And if those guys did not bring, he was going to take everything by himself, and this time, he was going to take even more than what he had asked for previously. The two of them continued to chat for about 2 minutes, before Jack finally brought back his focus on the second prompt that he had received during the first round. The system had stated that he had received several basic information, but from the system, it stated that it was the very basic information, implying that according to the system, it was not even at the standard basic level. It was just that, currently, Jack had already received several information about skills that he could learn. But, it was just that, it was going to take a very long time for him to be able to learn everything, considering that, even with the 100 times multiply effect, it was definitely going to take a month or two. And, that was just the theoretical knowledge that he was going to possess. As for the practical, he had to do that himself. That was something that was going to take some time as well. Just as Jack was thinking about how he was going to solve this problem, another system prompt appeared in front of him. Emergency program activated. The system can enable the host to learn every information that he has received so far. But, as usual, the host will have to complete a task that will be assigned by the system. Another thing to note is that, only the information that came from the system through the multiplier effect can be learned using this emergency program. Jack was momentarily shocked. But still, he did not show much on his face. Anyway, this was expected from the system considering that, it was so overpowered. After thinking things through, although Jack did not really want to get another mission from the system, but, he did not have a choice. He was going to face strong enemies very soon, so, he had to make sure that he got stronger as soon as possible. Additionally, if he gained the information and skills that had been sent over, then, that implied that he was going to be able to strengthen the people with him. After thinking about this, Jack decided in his mind, "System, I would like to learn every information that has been sent over. After that, I would like to know what tasks I'm supposed to complete. Host, confirm your choice." Jack was left speechless after reading that system prompt. After all, this was not the first time that he had engaged in the emergency program. But, why was it that he was being asked for a confirmation from the system first? Could it be that it was going to be the way that it was for the free skill slots from the system? After all, at that time, he was asked to confirm the choice that he had made. And, at that time, he came to realize that, the level of skills that he was going to get from the system through the skill slots was going to be better as long as the time that he spent with the skill slots was going to be high. "System, is there anything that I'm supposed to know?" Jack questioned cautiously. "The host can go ahead and explore for himself, Jack." Jack was once again left speechless. After all, ever since that mistake that had happened in the past, there was a change that had happened to the system. And ever since then, he was not receiving any information in advance, as long as it was related to a function of the system. Unless it was a main function, like the one that he had received during the time that the system came in, or after the upgrade, all the other functions of the system were left for him to explore by himself. Anyway, Jack decided. It was not as if he was going to be given a mission to kill himself, right? As long as it was not that way, then, he really did not mind that much. "I confirm that," Jack stated in his mind. Confirmed. All the knowledge that the host has received will be integrated into the host in the next 30 minutes. The host has to make preparations because he will be unconscious during that time. The tasks that the host is supposed to complete are going to be granted to the host after everything is integrated into the mind of the host. Jack did not expect that something like this was going to happen. Anyway, curiously, Jack went ahead and looked at the information that was sent over to him. He had not actually read all of them, and just casually saw the few names that had appeared. But so far, he was not sure about the number of documents that had been sent over possessing information about several fields of study. But the moment that Jack began looking through, he could not help but be dumbfounded. After all, it seemed that the people of the Force organization were not willing to leave anything behind. Since Jack had said that he wanted every information that they possessed, these guys had actually sent over information to him. And, they had even sent to him the very basic information about something like cleaning a house and so on. Basically, that kind of information was useless to him, but it was still sent over nevertheless. At this point, Jack finally confirmed the reason why the system had actually asked him if he was going to confirm the choice that he had made. It turned out that he was going to be taught an intermediate level skill of tying his shoes, cleaning the house, washing his clothes, folding them, cleaning the dishes, and even something that was more ridiculous to Jack was that there was also the information about how to hook up with girls. Wasn't this too much? At the thought of this, Jack could not help but ask the system, is it possible for me to be able to change the decision that I made? I don't really want to learn all these information, but, instead, I want to learn part of it. Once the host has confirmed his choice, then, the changes cannot be made. Jack, although he was expecting a response like this, he could not help but be disappointed, but anyway, he decided to set the matter aside, considering that he had to be ready for the integration of the knowledge that he was going to receive from the system multiplier effect in 30 minutes. But Jack was just about to begin rounding up things when suddenly, somebody came into the store. Jack looks not the entrance of the store, and realized that the person who had arrived was actually Sylvia. To say that would, he had not be expecting that Sylvia was going to come over right now. After all, the condition that he had put forward was something that's not many people were going to agree to. That was unless they were in a desperate situation where they did not have any other choice but to agree. After Sylvia entered the store, she did not pay much attention to the rest of the group here. Instead, she simply focused on Jack and asked, "Can we discuss right now?" "Not really. I have already said whatever I have to say, so I don't think that there is any need for a discussion to be continued unless you agree to the condition that I have stated. Additionally, I have something that I need to do, so I don't think I have the time of holding a discussion." Jack shook his head as he responded. Sylvia furrowed her brows, as she pursed her lips after hearing Jack's response. Had it not been for the fact that currently she did not have any other choice, then, she would not have come over to ask Jack to help her with whatever it was that she wanted him to help. "I have already decided. I'm going to disband the entire Panthers organization. After that, I'll give you every resource that the Panthers organization possesses," Sylvia stated after calming herself down. Jack was a little surprised. He had not expected that Sylvia was going to agree to that condition this easily. After all, to say the truth, even the matter of disbanding the Panthers organization was not actually part of the deal. Instead, in order for Jack to be able to protect the entire Panthers organization, the only condition that he had was for the Panthers organization to become his. But, he was not going to take over. He was going to take the resources together with the people there to work for him in his new organization. As for what he was really supposed to be receiving, that was the information concerning the people that were after him. And, that information mainly focused on the Force organization. "Are you sure about it?" Jack questioned, just to confirm that Sylvia had actually decided on this matter. "Do you think that I will come over to joke with you?" Sylvia snorted as she responded. "Okay. Can we discuss this matter tomorrow? I have got something else to do, and it is going to take an indefinite period of time. So, perhaps tomorrow morning or maybe afternoon, we can discuss the details," Jack stated, a little impatiently. Currently, he had only been given 30 minutes by the system, and, after 30 minutes elapsed, he was going to pass out. This was the time that the information that he had received was going to be integrated into his mind. He was not sure how long the procedure was going to take, but, he had to take precautions, and what Jack wanted to do right now was to find a place that he could stay for the procedure to end. Sylvia was not sure about why Jack did not want to discuss the matter right now. But, looking at his expression, it seemed that he was not lying. Although she herself was a little impatient to deal with this matter once and for all, but, she had no choice since Jack was not willing to cooperate. "Okay. I'll come and find you tomorrow here, right?" Sylvia asked. "Yeah." Jack nodded his head. After that, Sylvia left. Instead of simply staying here, she wanted to make preparations about the disbanding of the Panthers organization. If possible, by tomorrow, she wanted to hand over everything about the Panthers organization to Jack. Although it might be true that she did not have full control over the Panthers organization, but, it was not as if she was going to be stopped from disbanding the organization. All that she had to do was to use her strength to completely suppress all those that tried to resist. Then, she was going to ask them to join Jack and his organization. As for how they were going to be handled by Jack, that was not something that she cared about. Anyway, if they decided to betray Jack, that was going to be his problem, and he was done that was going to handle it. The only reason why she had asked Jack to protect the Panthers organization was simply because she wanted his protection. It was not only from her own brother who would come over to look for her anytime, but also, she was definitely going to be attacked by someone from another family because of an incident that occurred about 5 years ago. It was just that, her pride did not allow her to tell Jack directly. After all, she did not really feel comfortable asking Jack to protect her. Additionally, wouldn't Celine think that she was trying to steal her man away from her? After Sylvia left, Celine approached Jack and asked, "What is it that you're trying to talk about handling? Is there someone who is planning to attack us, or are you trying to go back to the Force organization to claim more compensation from them?" "No, that's not it. There's going to be a change that is going to happen to my body due to taking a pill today. So, I'm going to be unconscious in less than 30 minutes, Jack responded. Until now, he had not revealed anything about the system to Celine, and he was not willing to do that unless he actually understood the system. But he could go ahead and reveal some of the functions to her, as long as they did not affect the information about the system. "Is there something wrong?" Celine questioned worriedly. She was getting a little anxious after realizing that Jack was about to pass out. Jack smiled after seeing how concerned Celine was towards him. He stretched his hand and held her cheek as he said, "There's no need for you to worry about it. Nothing is going to happen to me. At least not something negative. As for me, after I wake up, I will definitely be capable of doing more things." Celine looked at Jack's eyes that were looking at her with sincerity. Although she was still a little worried, but she felt relieved after hearing that Jack was not going to be in any danger. Additionally, she did not need to ask about Jack claiming that he would be capable of doing more things. After all, it was not long ago that he had enabled her to become a superhuman. Of course, she did not question that much about his abilities, considering that inside the stronghold domain, there were several people that possessed strange abilities. And she already knew about Alicia, who was capable of controlling other people's minds. "Okay. You said that it is going to happen in less than 30 minutes, which I doubt we will be back home. So, why don't you do it inside here, and I'll keep watch," Celine suggested. Jack thought about it, before he nodded. Currently, there was no danger that he faced. All the superhumans that were present within a stronghold number 17 and they were having any ill intentions towards him had already been eliminated. That included Derek, and he was sure that it was going to take some time for the others from the big strongholds to come over in case they wanted to come and know what was happening here. After coming to that decision, Jack went back to the room that was behind the store. There, he lay on the bed, before trying to communicate with the system. "System, how long is the integration of the information going to take?" Jack asked in his mind. "Approximately 1 hour." Jack was slightly relieved after hearing that it was going to take an hour, and not an entire day. After all, there was a time that he had passed out, and it had taken him several hours to wake up, during the time of the system upgrade. Though, Jack really wouldn't mind if that 1 hour was actually reduced to 1 minute, but nevertheless, he did not say anything else, but just relaxed his body in order to prepare himself for the integration. "Will there be any pain?" Jack asked once again after a moment of silence. "It will be there. But it will be minimal." Of course, Jack did not believe the part where the system said that there would be pain, but it would be minimal. To the system, that minimal implied that this kind of pain that he was going to experience was something that could make a man scream. Nevertheless, it was not as if he was afraid of pain. Currently, what he was really worried about was the task that he was supposed to handle. "I will just have to make sure that those guys pay for it. How comes they send me information about some stupid things about cleaning and so on? That piece of information is completely crap." Jack thought to himself as he remembered about the information that was about to be integrated into his mind. He was not really worried about the important information being integrated into his mind, in exchange for him completing a task. But it was just that, there was other useless information that was going to be integrated into his mind, and he was supposed to complete task for that. The integration of the information will start in 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8. Without even him realizing it, the 30 minutes that he was given for preparation by the system had already elapsed, and the countdown began. Celine had been sitting beside Jack all this while. As for the matter of closing the store, they decided to postpone it a little. Samantha had already gone out to look for food, because there were no cooking utensils that were present within the store. It was just that, she did not know what reason was keeping Samantha away for such a long time now. After the countdown ended, Jack suddenly felt his consciousness getting blurry. Then, some hint of discomfort appeared on his body, and at the same time, his mind was suddenly getting flooded with a lot of information. Without even getting a chance of processing the information that was being injected into his mind, Jack finally lost his consciousness. But still, even though he was unconscious, he could feel the pain, and subconsciously, he furrowed his brows. Celine had observed all of this happening. And, when she saw that Jack was frowning, she could not help but be a little worried. Of course, she knew that there was no way that Jack was going to tell her that he was going to undergo pain, just to make sure that she was not worried about him. But she could not help but be worried right now. Although the expression that was on Jack's face indicated that he was feeling pain and discomfort, it was not that intense. "Jack, are you okay?" Celine questioned, a little worried. But, even after waiting for a few seconds, there was no response that came from Jack. Celine, who was seated on the bed that Jack was sleeping on, moved towards Jack's face, and realized that he had actually passed out. Not knowing what to do, Celine decided to continue sitting beside him, waiting for him to wake up. In case there was anything that he needed, then, she was going to help him with it. Just like that, time continued moving, but Jack did not wake up. At the same time, Samantha, who had gone out, did not come back. "Denali, can you confirm with Samantha about what is going on? She should have been back by now." Celine moved away from the bed, and looked towards the store where Denali was in before speaking. "Okay. I'll do that," Denali responded. After that, she used the communication device that she possessed and tried to contact Samantha. But, after some time, there was no response from the other end. This made her frown as she wondered about what had gone wrong. It was completely unusual that Samantha was actually going to ignore the call that she was receiving from Denali. Not to mention the fact that the relationship between the two of them was not that bad, and was even at a level that the two of them were considered as friends. There was actually no reason for Samantha to ignore Denali's call. It was also at this moment that Denali realized that there had to be something wrong. But, it was just that she did not understand what it was. "Is there any problem?" Celine, who had not yet retreated back into the room, asked Denali after looking at that expression on her face. "Samantha is not responding. I think that is something wrong," Denali responded with a frown on her face. Celine also did not understand what was going on. Actually, Samantha was supposed to have returned even before Jack became unconscious. But, it had already been over 30 minutes ever since Jack became unconscious, but she had not yet even returned. Additionally, she had not given them a heads up about the reason why she was not coming back. After all, it was not that difficult for her to send the message to them, informing them that there was something that was delaying her. Could it be that the people from the Butterfly organization are acting once again? Celine guessed. When Denali heard that, she thought that there was actually a high probability of something like that happening. After all, currently, in the entire stronghold, the only enemy that they possessed was the Force organization. As for the Butterfly organization, the two sides had not yet collided, but still, due to the fact that Samantha was no longer a member of the Butterfly organization, there was a group that had come over to look for her. But during the last time that they had come over to take Samantha with them, they had been beaten up, so it would not be a surprise that they would be making their move. Denali was just about to respond when suddenly, her communication device rang. And looking at the user ID that was calling her, she realized that it was actually Samantha. Without hesitation, she received the call, a little worried. "Hey Samantha, what's up? Is there something wrong?" Denali asked the moment that she received the call. After Samantha had left the store, she decided to go and look for better food. She did not just go to any cafeteria or restaurant that was around the area. Instead, she wanted to get the food that was located closer to the center of the stronghold. She had managed to get good food, but just as she was about to leave, she was intercepted, and the ones that had intercepted her were actually members of the Butterfly organization. "What is it this time?" Samantha asked a little impatiently. Since she had decided to move towards the center of the stronghold, she had taken some time. So, to go back, it was going to take her about 15 minutes to reach the store with the food. "You already know the reason why we are here. We have been sent to come and fetch you. This time, it is actually the leader of the Butterfly organization that has sent us," one of the ladies responded. Unlike Samantha, she was actually a level ahead of the Guardians. She was a 9-star ordinary human. And currently, she was actually fully armed. Although she was not possessing the equipment that were used during the battlefield, but these equipment were quite lethal. Since Samantha had already decided that she was no longer going to be part of the Butterfly organization, she had decided to not wear that armor. At the end of the day, it was not as if the Butterfly organization had done anything wrong to her. So, in respect to the fact that that was where she had started her journey, she decided that she was no longer going to use the armor, after deciding to abruptly leave the organization. So, she was sure that the moment that the lady in front of her attacked, then she was going to be easily taken care of. Additionally, it was not as if it was only this lady who had come, but she was accompanied by 2 other ladies, who were at the same level, each of them being at 8-star ordinary human level. I already stated that I am no longer part of the butterfly organization. Why is it that you cannot let me go? Samantha questioned with a frown on her face. Humph. Do you think that we don't know that? It is just that you currently possess a lot of information about our organization. So, you are required by the leader of our organization. The lady in the lead snorted as she responded. What if I say that I don't want to come? Samantha questioned. If that is the case, then we will have no other choice but to take you by force. The lady in the lead responded. Then without waiting for someone to say anything, she moved and attacked. Not to mention the fact that she was 2 stars ahead of Samantha in terms of combat capabilities. But she had also attacked abruptly. Samantha was not capable of reacting on time. Bang! An attack landed on her chest, launching her backwards a few steps. The bag that she was carrying containing food was forced to drop onto the ground. Samantha was grimacing in pain, and she was struggling to get back to her feet. But, before she could even do that, the 2 ladies moved forward and subdued her. Knowing that she was currently in trouble, she wanted to inform Denali about the matter, but the 2 ladies that were holding her down did not allow her to use her communication device. Don't try to play any tricks. We already know that you are with a group of people, but we don't really care about that group. What we really care about is you, so I hope that you cooperate with us, or we are going to be rougher than this. The other lady, who was at 9-star ordinary human level, stated as she looked at Samantha coldly. After that, the lady looked at the 2 that were holding Samantha down and said, "Let's take her back. We should get done with this as soon as possible." Yes. The 2 ladies responded before they carried Samantha into a car that was parked not far away from where they were. What had happened here had attracted a small crowd, but since the incident ended so quickly, the small crowd that had accumulated here dispersed not long after. After Samantha was taken into the car drove away. As for Samantha, there was nothing that she could do as currently, she was held tightly, not being given a chance of sending even a message to Celine about what had happened. After about 20 minutes, they arrived in the area that the butterfly organization was located. Since Samantha was taken when she was in the heart of the stronghold, the butterfly organization was not that far from there. After they arrived here, the 9-star ordinary human lady looked at Samantha and said fiercely, "You better behave yourself here. If you don't do that, then you cannot blame for anything that happens to you next." Samantha did not respond. She knew that since they had already arrived here, then there was no chance that she was going to get out of here unless she got assistance from Jack and the group. She herself was not afraid about being here. After all, it was not as if she had committed a big crime that she needed to be punished for. So, she did not respond to the lady's words and decided to go ahead and enter the building that was in front of her. The lady snorted the moment that she saw that Samantha was not responding. Still, she followed behind her, just to make sure that Samantha did not do anything stupid. Samantha was already familiar with this place, so she did not need to be led to know where she was supposed to find the leader of the organization, Phoebe. It did not take her a long time to be able to reach this place. After she arrived, she stood on the side and waited. After all, she had been brought over, but she was not the one who came here on her own accord. The 9-star lady snorted when she saw this. She went ahead and pressed a few buttons on the security system that was placed at the entrance. After that, the door opened, and the group entered. This room was completely different from the one that Phoebe used during her training sessions. Currently, she was seated inside this room that possessed a few furniture, and none of them was a luxury. Anyway, Phoebe was not a person that really cared about luxury. All that she really cared about the most was training and getting stronger. And, had it not been just a form of etiquette, then, she would not even have bothered to have a room like this. This is where she received people and handled official businesses. And right now, the matter concerning Samantha was considered official. When she saw that Samantha had arrived, she looked at her for a moment before saying, "Samantha, take a seat." Samantha followed what she had been instructed. There was no fear in her heart, but she was a little anxious. She was not sure if Denali and Celine were going to know that something had happened to her. But just thinking about the intelligence of the 2 ladies, she realized that they would definitely realize that there was something that had happened to her, considering that she had been out for a very long time. Thinking of that, she relaxed. All that she had to do while here was to make sure that she was not killed. As long as she was not dead, then she was never going to be locked in here for a long time before she was taken out. After Samantha took a seat, she remained silent and waited for Phoebe to tell her the reason why she wanted her here. Straight to the point. I don't have a problem with you leaving our organization. After all, everybody has a freedom of their own, and according to the contributions that you have provided to the organization, you are free to leave as long as you wish. Phoebe began speaking. Well, she was not ready to waste a lot of time here considering that she needed to go back and train. She had yet to reach stage 2 of the superhuman level, and that was the current target that she was having in her mind. You decided to leave, that we don't have anything against it. But still, there's a rule that states that as long as you leave our organization, you definitely cannot go to an opposing force, Phoebe continued. Samantha on the other hand was a little confused. As long as she could remember, she knew that there was no conflict between Jack and the Butterfly organization, other than the issue concerning her. But here, Phoebe was actually claiming that she had joined an opposing force. Could it be that there was actually a grudge that existed between Jack and the Butterfly organization that she didn't know? But how was that possible? Phoebe looked at the confused expression that was on Samantha's face and couldn't help but scrunch her face. Still, she decided to continue. But you have broken the rule. Initially, I really did not care about the fact that you decided to leave the organization although you were considered as a guardian here. Additionally, with that kind of power level that you possess, all of that came from our organization. I really wouldn't have cared if you wanted to join any other organization inside the stronghold. But, there is one of them that is completely out of question, and that is the Panthers organization, Phoebe continued. Samantha on the other hand finally understood where this was heading to. It seemed that Phoebe and the rest of the members of the Butterfly organization had gotten information that she had somehow been involved with the Panthers organization. If that is the information that you received, then, your intel is wrong. It is true that I am somehow involved with the Panthers organization, but not directly, Samantha stated after looking at Phoebe who was looking at her. Phoebe was not a person that liked roundabouts. So, although she was a little surprised that Samantha was saying things confidently, she decided to bring out the evidence. According to the information that I have received, you have interacted with the leader of the Panthers organization, Sylvia, more than once. Additionally, just today, not long ago, Sylvia came to the place that you are currently in. So, mind explaining to me the reason why a leader of an organization, a superhuman at that, would come to the place that you are in if you are not involved with her? Phoebe questioned as she looked at Samantha intensely. I have not said that I am not involved with her, but it is just that the involvement that I have with her is completely indirect. The person that I'm currently under is the person that is dealing with the leader of the Panthers organization. But, it is the leader of the Panthers organization that is looking for my boss for a cooperation, and not the other way around, Samantha stated seriously. Are you joking around with me? You're trying to tell me that B*TCH is trying to look for someone for cooperation? And who is this boss of yours? Phoebe questioned. Of course, she would not believe that Sylvia was going to do something like this. She herself had already interacted with Sylvia several times, and she knew just how proud Sylvia was. So, how is it possible that she wanted to cooperate with a boss that was not even known within the stronghold? If you want to know, I'll let you know. My boss is a superhuman, and the level of strength that he possesses, I don't really know because I cannot read him. Additionally, my boss is someone who doesn't like trouble, but that does not imply that if someone looks for trouble, he is going to run away from it, Samantha responded. Of course, she was not going to reveal any information about the cooperation that Sylvia had mentioned before. After all, that was a deal that had not yet been concluded, and Samantha was not a member of the Butterfly organization to provide information to them. Another superhuman? How comes I have never heard of him? Phoebe questioned. At this moment, that 9-star lady could not help but shake her head inwardly. At the same time, she exclaimed in her mind, how the hell are you supposed to know about something like this when you are continuously training, not even paying much attention to the information about the organization? Although she was thinking that way in her mind, she did not try to say that out loud. Otherwise, she might not know how she ended up getting her limbs broken. My boss just came in the stronghold recently. He usually keeps a low key, and that's why I said that he doesn't like trouble, but he is someone that deals with trouble if it comes his way completely. Samantha responded as she shrugged her shoulders. Are you trying to threaten me? Phoebe questioned. It might be true that she was a training maniac, but that didn't imply that she was an idiot. From the fact that Samantha was calling Jack her boss, that implied that she was his subordinate. And, the actions of the Butterfly organization of bringing her here by force was definitely no different from provoking Jack. Samantha did not respond to that. Anyway, to her, as long as she was alive until Jack and his group came over, then, everything was okay. When Phoebe saw that Samantha did not have the intention of replying, she looked at her coldly and said, "Why don't you make a call and invite your boss over? I wouldn't mind chatting with him." Samantha was flabbergasted after hearing what Phoebe had said. Could there be something wrong with her hearing? After all, she had never expected that after being prevented all this while from contacting Denali, she was actually asked to call Jack? "Are you going to call him or not?" Getting a little impatient at Samantha, who was not reacting to what she had said, Phoebe questioned. "Okay. I'll do that just now," Samantha responded. Initially, she was a little afraid of Phoebe. After all, Phoebe was a superhuman, and she on the other hand was only a 7-star ordinary human. But, after she had interacted with Jack and Celine, the fear that she had towards superhumans had already been completely erased. Of course, this fear that Samantha initially possessed was actually just some anxiousness. Having interacted with Jack and Celine for a very long time now, and having it already been over a month ever since Jack became a superhuman, she was no longer nervous in the presence of a superhuman. That was especially so considering that Phoebe was weak as compared to Jack and Celine. But still, that did not imply that she was going to provoke a superhuman because she no longer feared them. Instead, unless there was any other important reason, there was no way that she was going to provoke a superhuman. She had already witnessed the strength that superhumans possessed through Jack and Celine. Samantha began pressing the communication device on her left wrist, contacting Denali. She was not sure about the current situation that Jack was in, so she decided to use Denali in order to communicate with Jack. She knew that Jack was a person who liked reading recently, and he really did not like getting interrupted easily. Additionally, before she left, she had already gotten the information that Jack was about to do something. So, she was not willing to interrupt him. Just after a few seconds of ringing, the call was received. "Hey Samantha, what's up? Is there something wrong?" Denali asked the moment that she received the call. "Yes. There is just a little problem with the Butterfly organization. I'm currently held here, and they are actually asking to meet with Jack," Samantha responded, completely ignoring Phoebe who was gazing at her. "Someone from the Butterfly organization? Just as expected. At the end of the day, I don't think that there is any enemy that we possess within this stronghold that has the capability of dealing with you. But, why does the Butterfly organization want to meet with Jack?" Denali questioned suspiciously. Anyway, it was not as if there was any kind of business that Jack had ever had with the Butterfly organization. So, it was kind of strange that they were going to kidnap Samantha, so that they could meet up with Jack. But, it was just that, this was definitely not the best method of meeting with Jack. If Jack came to realize that there was someone that had kidnapped a person that was close to him, then, that person was definitely going to suffer. The Shadow Organization was an example of this. That guy who had ordered the kidnapping of Celine was thoroughly injured, and the Shadow Organization had to pay the price for doing that, having Celine kidnapped. Actually, it is not the entire Butterfly organization that wants to meet with Jack. Instead, it is actually the leader of the Butterfly organization. She has told me to call to inform Jack to come over, Samantha stated. "Are you sure about this? You definitely know that Jack will not come over, right? Currently, not to mention that he is not in a condition of coming over. He really won't waste his time on something like this. That is unless you are actually in danger," Denali stated helplessly. "I know that. That was actually the reason why I called you, instead of calling Jack," Samantha replied, also feeling a little helpless. "Samantha, can you tell me what is going on?" This time, instead of Denali responding, it was actually Celine's voice that came through. Samantha went ahead and told Celine everything that was happening here, and after Celine heard that, she could not help but feel a little weird. Nevertheless, since currently Jack was not in a condition of going out, it seemed that she had to go over and bring Samantha back. It was just that, she was worried that if she left, then someone might come over and do something to Jack. That was why she was hesitating on whether she was supposed to come over or not. "Oh, you are actually telling me that he is not going to come over unless you are in danger? Then, tell him that you are in danger because if he doesn't get here in 30 minutes, then I'm going to kill you." At this moment, Phoebe who had been silent suddenly spoke up. And the moment that she did that, she released the superhuman aura that she possessed, making Samantha feel pressured. It was just that, Samantha felt that the pressure that was being released by Phoebe was nothing when compared to Celine, not to mention Jack. Still, although it might be true that the aura that was being released by Phoebe was not as strong as compared to the one that Jack and Celine always released, but still, she on the other hand was not a superhuman. So currently, she was feeling stifled, and she was having a difficult time breathing. Slowly, beads of sweat began appearing on her forehead. Other than that, Samantha was also a little dumbfounded after hearing what Phoebe had said. After all, according to her, she knew that Phoebe was not a bloodthirsty person. And currently, she had not done anything that deserved to make Phoebe completely mad. That implied that, whatever Phoebe was saying was actually something that was going to be used in order to bring Jack over. But Samantha was also afraid that Phoebe might actually be meaning whatever she was saying. After all, there was not even a simple term that she had noticed Phoebe saying something and not doing it. "Are you sure about this?" Celine questioned. She could clearly hear what Phoebe was saying. So, she frowned a little, considering that this was putting her in a difficult position. On one hand, she wanted to stay close to Jack, to ensure that nothing happened to him. And on the other hand, it was her friend who was currently in danger and needed her help. "Do you think that I have the time to joke around with you? You better tell that Jack to come over, or I'm going to kill her." Phoebe snorted as she responded. There was a moment of silence from the other end of the communication device. Then after about 30 seconds, Celine finally spoke. "I hope that you don't regret whatever it is that you are doing." Immediately after saying that, the communication was ended. It was clear that currently, Celine was PSSED off. Samantha already knew about Celine's temper. She was definitely not one of those that could be easily provoked. Once she was angered, then, the person that was responsible for that was going to pay a huge price for that. After the communication was cut off, nobody spoke within the room. Instead, silence was maintained, as both of them waited for someone to come over. Of course, Samantha was guessing that Celine was going to come over in case Jack was still busy with something. As for Phoebe, she was looking forward to meeting with this Jack. Of course, she already had the image of him. In fact, she possessed the image of the entire group. It was just that, she had received that information while she was within the organization, and she had not met with him personally. Is he strong as you claim? After all, only a strong person is capable of making a deal with that B*TCH Sylvia. Phoebe asked after a moment of silence. He is strong. He is a superhuman after all. Samantha responded, not giving the details about the fact that not long ago, Jack had actually killed a stage 3 superhuman. Not to mention that Phoebe was only a stage 1 superhuman. "I will test him out after he comes over, and if he is not as strong as you are claiming him to be, then, be sure that I'm going to make sure that you get punished for that," Phoebe stated. Samantha did not respond to that. After all, whatever Phoebe had said was actually true. If she was stronger than Jack, then, that implied that there was definitely nobody that was going to prevent Phoebe from doing anything to her. Nevertheless, she did not believe that there was even a very small possibility of Phoebe dealing with Jack. As for Celine, it might be true that she was also a stage 1 superhuman, but she possessed a special ability. That in itself made her way stronger than Phoebe. "Okay. Only 5 minutes are remaining until the 30 minutes that I have given end. If he doesn't come over, then, I don't really mind killing you. This is not just because of this matter, but it is because you are involved with the Panthers organization. Something that is completely against the rules of the organization," Phoebe stated clearly. Samantha did not react. To her, it seemed that there was nothing that was going to change. If someone came over right now, then, she was definitely going to be rescued. But, if nobody showed up, then, there was nothing that she could do. In any case, she did not have the ability of resisting at all. So, rather than saying anything, she decided to stay silent, hoping that someone would arrive. Just as she was continuing to hope, there was a voice at the entrance of the room. Phoebe had just gotten to her feet when she heard the voice at the door. She frowned a little, wondering if it was the person that was behind Samantha that had come over, or it was just one of her subordinates that had come over to report something to her. "Come on in," Phoebe stated loudly. But she had only spoken when she realized that there was the soundproof system. That implied that, the voice coming from inside that could not be heard by the people that were outside of the room. Feeling a little frustrated, she took heavy steps towards the entrance, before she pressed a button that was on the left side of the door. The doors slid to the side, revealing 2 figures at the entrance. One of them was Karen, someone that she knew. As for the other lady, of who had beauty that was almost out of this world, she had only seen her in the images that she had been shown before. But, Phoebe did not focus on them. Instead, she looked behind them, but realized that there was nobody else here. She was a little disappointed after realizing this. "Leader, this lady claims that you asked her to come over. Karen stated after the door opened. Phoebe did not respond to her. Instead, she looked at Celine with furrowed brows and asked, "Where's Jack? I thought that I asked for him to come over, not you." "Does it matter anyway? I'm here because I want to take Samantha with me, and I hope that you have good enough reasons for taking her as a prisoner here," Celine stated indifferently. Phoebe did not like the attitude that Celine possessed, but she still decided to ignore that. She went back into the room without even giving Karen another glance. As for Celine, she simply followed behind Phoebe. She was worried about Samantha. It might be true that during the first time that the two of them had met, Samantha had come over with ill intentions. But later on, she was subdued by Jack, and she signed a contract that she was going to work for them. And, during the past few weeks that they had interacted, they had formed a bond, something that Celine was not willing to break. After all, the number of friends that she possessed was small. And to make matters worse, even those friends that she possessed were currently in the normal world, and inside the stronghold domain. The only friends that she possessed would be Samantha and Denali. That was the reason why, despite being reluctant to leave Jack's side, she had no choice but to come over just to ensure that Samantha was okay. As for Denali, she remained behind to look after Jack. It was just that, after coming over, Celine wanted to complete everything as fast as possible to make sure that she went back. After all, there was no guarantee that there was nothing that was going to happen during the time that she was away. After entering the room, Celine was relieved after realizing that Samantha was okay. Then, she looked at Phoebe, who had already gone back to her seat, and questioned, "What is it that you want?" All that I want is to meet that person called Jack. You know, I have been informed that he is someone with a deal with that B*TCH Sylvia. I'm quite curious about what it is that he possesses that makes Samantha here decide to abandon the Butterfly organization and join you. And other than that, I also want to know what it is that has attracted Sylvia's attention to him," Phoebe stated nonchalantly. Celine looked at Phoebe with a frown on her face. Then she questioned, "What does it concern you, considering that whatever we are doing is not related to your Butterfly organization?" "What do you mean by what does it concern me? You know, there is a rule in my organization that states that nobody is prevented or prohibited from leaving the organization. But still, there is a condition that whoever leaves the organization has to follow. And that is, they cannot join an opposing organization, and it is strictly prohibited that nobody from my Butterfly organization can join the Panthers organization," Phoebe responded as she eyed Celine. "From all the words that you have said, I don't think that there's anything that we need to discuss anymore. Not to mention the fact that we are not related to the Panthers organization, we don't care about the rules that the Butterfly organization have. But let me tell you this clearly, if you try to make another move on a person that is closer to me, not to mention me, even Jack is going to kill you personally," Celine stated coldly. Phoebe felt her brows twitch after hearing what Celine had said. The thing that she hated the most was if a person tried to threaten her. Additionally, she was also a person that was addicted to competition. And currently, Celine had just stated that, other than Jack, she was actually capable of dealing with her. That was something that made her curious about the strength that Celine possessed. She jumped onto her feet and looked at Celine. Then, releasing the superhuman aura, she looked directly into Celine's eyes and asked, "Why don't you let me see the kind of strength that you are talking about? This is the stronghold domain after all, and here, everything that matters is strength." Immediately after she finished saying that, she did not give Celine a chance of responding. Instead, she launched herself forward, moving at an incredible speed, completely beyond the highest recorded speed of the humans in the normal world. The sound of the air being cut could be heard. At this moment, Phoebe was not using any equipment, but instead, she was attacking using her bare fists. When Celine realized that Phoebe was attacking, she was at first stunned. She had not expected that Phoebe was going to attack her. But still, she was able to react on time. At the end of the day, the distance between the two sides was about 20 meters. So, although it might be true that Phoebe was fast, but it was not as if Celine was giving Phoebe her back. Without hesitation, Celine immediately activated the special ability that she possessed. As usual, there was no need for her to hide anything. Currently, they had already provoked the Force organization, together with Derek's family. With the two sides targeting them, then, that implied that there was nothing that they were going to hide. Additionally, it was not as if she was the one at fault in this situation. It was Phoebe that had attacked first. Phoebe, who was approaching Celine, realized that she had also looked at her. She was a little surprised that Celine was able to react so fast, despite the distance between the two of them being short. Still, she did not think much of it, and continued forward to attack. Initially, she had been intending to hold back, just to make sure that she did not kill Celine. But now, she increased the strength of her fist, just to test out the strength that Celine possessed. From the reaction that Celine was having, that implied that she was a superhuman as well. But Phoebe was a little surprised when she realized that Celine was not making any of the move other than looking at her. It was just then that she decided to reduce the strength of the attack that she was launching. But she had just made that decision when suddenly, she felt her body being blasted backwards by an invisible force. Of course she tried to resist, but she found herself completely incapable of resisting. Not to mention the fact that she was not expecting something like this to happen, but she was moving, with her center of gravity affected. Bang! Crash! Phoebe's body heavily slammed onto the couch that was behind her. Not capable of withstanding the force that Phoebe's body had landed onto it with, the couch was broken into pieces. A few seconds went by. Celine looked in the direction that Phoebe's body had crashed. She herself had also realized that Phoebe had no killing intention. So, she also held back during the time that she was attacking. But still, she was a little displeased by the fact that Phoebe just attacked her out of nowhere. So, although she was holding back, she did not hold back that much. That implied that, from the attack, Phoebe was definitely injured. Crumble, pang. Phoebe managed to crawl out of that wooden splinters of the couch. She looked at Samantha with surprise in her eyes, as blood leaked from the corner of her mouth. You actually possess a special ability. Why didn't I know that a person like you has arrived inside our stronghold? Phoebe questioned as she looked at Celine.